Hello everyone. Let's continue with plant kingdom chapter. In the last video lecture, we have seen how we can classify all the plants into the different groups, that is algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms. In this video lecture, we will start with the first plant group, that is algae. Here we will discuss some important examples of algae. Then how do algae reproduce? And also what is the importance of algae? Let's start. So algae, as obviously these are included in plant kingdom, they are photosynthetic, they are autotrophic, and to perform photosynthesis they should have the various photosynthetic pigments. So algae are chlorophyll bearing organisms. They contain chlorophyll. They are simple, right? You must be remembering we studied that algae have undifferentiated plant body. That means they do not have any root, stem or leaves or any similar structure. And that is why we say that algae are very simple in the structure. Many of the species are thalloid, means they have flattened sheet-like structure. They are autotrophic. That means they can synthesize their own food by photosynthesis, and largely aquatic, both freshwater as well as marine. They occur in like very diverse habitats, like along with the freshwater and marine ecosystems, they are also found on moist stones, soils and wood. But obviously presence of moisture, presence of water is very important for survival of algae. Then there are some algal species which are in symbiotic association with fungi, and this symbiotic association is called lichen, right? Lichens are very sensitive to the sulfur dioxide gas which is present in the atmosphere. So let's say if the air is polluted, it will have higher concentrations of sulfur dioxide gas, and as lichens are sensitive to it, they start dying out, and hence they are called pollution indicators. Remember, this is very important point. Fungi and algae, इन दोनों का जो symbiotic association है, right? Both species help each other. Algae is photosynthetic, so it will prepare food and give it to fungi. And fungi, because of its filaments, it will have a large surface area. Fungi will absorb minerals and water from the substratum and give it to algae. So both help each other. Fungi also provide shelter to the algae, and this symbiotic association is lichen, which is sensitive to air pollution. So if the air is polluted, lichens will not grow there, and hence they are called pollution indicators. Very important point. You all have studied this in biological classification chapter. Okay, let's continue with this. So algae, they are associated with fungi and the association is lichen. Also, there are some algae which are found on the bodies of animals like sloth bear. Now, when we talk about the structure of algae, the main plant body of algae, the size and the form, right, its shape, the structure is highly variable. You have some unicellular algae like Chlamydomonas and Chlorella, right? Then you have some colonial forms of algae. The parental colony and the small daughter colonies live like a large spherical structure here called colonial form, which is volvox, right? The species is volvox. Super important example, colonial forms like volvox. Next, you have some filamentous forms, thread-like structures called eulothrix and spirogyra, right? Eulothrix and spirogyra, these are filamentous algae. Next, we do have some giant algae. They have massive plant bodies, like they may reach up to a height of 100 meters also, and these are kelps. Okay, so there are different species of kelps like macrocystis which grow very huge, and that is why it's mentioned as they have massive, means huge plant bodies. Okay, so this is very important. Example based questions आ सकते हैं इस पे. Colonial form is volvox, filamentous forms eulothrix and spirogyra, and we have the massive giant plant bodies in kelps, right? Next, let's see how do algae reproduce. Okay, now algae can show reproduction by vegetative means asexual means and sexual means. Now, first of all, how do we distinguish between these three methods? Vegetative is also a form of asexual reproduction only because here fertilization is not involved, but here we keep them as separate topics. Okay, so vegetative reproduction will involve the methods wherein the main plant body will directly generate the new ones. Here any spores are not produced. So methods like fragmentation will be the vegetative method. So in case of algae like spirogyra, which is very filamentous, right? So when the filaments grow very long, what happens is this filament will split into tiny fragments, and each split fragment will grow into a mature spirogyra. So here any spore is not produced, any gamete is not produced. So this method will be vegetative reproduction. What is included in this? Fragmentation. So different species of different kinds of algae may reproduce vegetatively by fragmentation. Next, we talk about the second, that is asexual method. Asexual reproduction means obviously here any fertilization, that is fusion of gametes, will not take place, right? Fusion of gametes will be involved only during sexual reproduction. So as we are talking about asexual reproduction, here some specific asexual spores are produced. So the most common spore which is produced during asexual reproduction in algae, these are zoospores. Okay, very important. कौन से asexual spores बनाए जाते हैं? Zoospores. Now these zoospores are flagellated, right? Flagella present होने के कारण वो खुद locomotion कर सकते हैं. They can move from one place to another, let's say in the water medium, right? So as they have flagella, they are motile, and these zoospores, when they germinate, they form new plants. So here specific asexual spores are produced called zoospores. These are the most common types of spores. These are produced during favorable conditions. You also have some other types of spores produced in different algal species during unfavorable conditions like aplanospores or hypnospores. Okay, but this is the important point here which we should know for NEET exam. That is, the most common spore is zoospore. Okay, next, sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction means obviously it will involve fusion of the two gametes. Okay, so male and female gametes will be fused to form zygote, and this process is fertilization, or it is also called syngamy. If this process is involved, then we will call it sexual reproduction. Now, in case of algae, we have three different methods of sexual reproduction. That is isogamous sexual reproduction, anisogamous sexual reproduction, and oogamous sexual reproduction. Very easy to remember. Isogamous. See, gamy means there is fusion. Okay, याद रखो. Wherever you see the term gamy, gamo, मतलब यहाँ पे fusion हो रहा है. So obviously sexual reproduction है तो यहाँ पे gametes का fusion होगा. Next, iso means same, right? So if the two gametes which are involved in fertilization are similar in size, then the reproduction is isogamous. Now these gametes can be flagellated or non-flagellated. So remember, very important, example based question आ सकता है इस पे. Isogamous का meaning क्या है? The two gametes are similar in size. Now what you need to remember is the gametes are similar in size, but if they are flagellated, then the example here which we have to remember is Eulothrix. In case of Eulothrix, which we studied as a filamentous alga, right? Yes, here the gametes are similar in size and flagellated. And second, we may have non-flagellated gametes. Non-flagellated means flagella are absent, and hence these gametes are non-motile. They cannot move on their own, right? But they are similar in size. So it's still isogamy. Example will be Spirogyra. So remember, isogamous, we will have like two types. Flagellated gametes in Eulothrix and non-flagellated in Spirogyra. Okay. Next, we have N-isogamous. So obviously, if isogamous reproduction involved similar sized gametes, then N-isogamous, this will be opposite. So fusion of two gametes which are dissimilar in size, if the two gametes are dissimilar in size, then it will be N-isogamy. And the example which we have to know is Eudorina. Very important example, Eudorina. Okay. Next, if suppose the female gamete is large, non-motile. Non-motile means obviously here any flagella will not be present. It is static, it is stationary, it is non-motile. Okay. The like one gamete which is female gamete, it is large and non-motile. Okay. And the male gamete is smaller in size and motile. It will move on its own. It will have motile structures. It will have flagella. Then the reproduction, the sexual reproduction is termed as oogamous sexual reproduction. And the examples are volvox and fucus. You can easily remember how the gametes should be present comparing the gametes of humans, right? As the egg cell is larger and non-motile, यहाँ पे भी same है, and the sperm cells are smaller and motile, यहाँ पे भी same है, so easy to remember, right? What are the examples? Volvox and fucus. So this is how reproduction occurs in algae by vegetative, asexual or sexual methods. Okay. Next, we will discuss about the importance of algae, right? How algae are ecologically and economically very important. Okay. So algae, as they are photosynthetic, they are present mainly in water, right? Aquatic habitats. Also, see, very important point, at least a half of the total CO2 fixation on earth is carried out by algae, right? Almost 50% of photosynthesis is carried out by algae through the process of photosynthesis, right? CO2 fixation by photosynthesis, and in this process there is a byproduct called oxygen, right? In photosynthesis, oxygen gas is released and this oxygen will get dissolved in the immediate environment, that is the water body. So algae increase the level of dissolved oxygen in their immediate environment. So it will help all the aquatic species which are present in the water body, right? They will get oxygen from water. And as they are photosynthetic, they can produce their own food, they will produce glucose and they will produce other sugars, right? So they are of paramount, means immense, huge importance as primary producers. As these are photosynthetic, they are producers, okay, primary producers of energy rich compounds, and that is why they form the basis of food cycles, right? जो सारे हमारे like food chain जो हम draw करते हैं, right? Usually we start it with the plant only, right? The normal food chain, how do we write it? Plant, then some herbivore, then some carnivore. So obviously in case of aquatic ecosystems, right, the producers are mainly algae, right, and they are basis of the various food cycles of all the aquatic animals. तो ये एक ecological importance हो जाएगा. They provide food and they also provide oxygen. Next, many species of Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum. वापस एक बार देखो, very important. Many species of Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum are among 70 species of marine algae which are used as food. So these are edible. These are like delicacies in many countries. Okay, Porphyra, Laminaria and Sargassum, and there are many more species, but at least remember these three names, right? These are very important for your NEET exam. And as you can see further, it's mentioned that there are about 70 different marine algal species which are used as food. Next, another important application of algae, mainly brown algae and red algae. Basically देखो, हम algae को तीन groups में divide करते हैं. There are three classes: ग्रीन एल्गे, ब्राउन एल्गे एंड रेड एल्गे. ठीक है, सो इसमें से जो ब्राउन एल्गे और रेड एल्गे है, राइट, यस, ब्राउन एंड रेड एल्गे स्पीशीज, दे हैव सम हाइड्रोकोलॉइड्स और फाइकोकोलॉइड्स present as an outer layer in their cell wall. So mainly आप देखो ये plants है, so here the cell wall is made up of cellulose. Apart from cellulose, you have some other materials as present as outer layer, right? Materials like algae. Okay, now these substances have great water holding capacities. Okay, so हम क्या करते हैं? We take those algae and with certain processes we extract all those colloidal materials which have great water holding capacities. If we take these materials and mix it with like hot boiling water and then cool this, we can make gels. Okay, we can make gel. Okay, so these have immense applications. So let's see what are the various hydrocolloidal materials which we obtain from algae. So the first one is algin or alginic acid. This material is obtained from different species of brown algae. So brown algae के cell wall में ये present होगा algae, right, as an outer mucilaginous or gelatinous coating. Next, we have one more hydrocolloid called carrageen, okay, or carrageenin. This is obtained from specific species of red algae, ठीक है, and these are used commercially to make different gels. Another important example of one of the most widely used hydrocolloid is agar. Okay, agar is obtained from red algal species Geladium and Gracilaria. Super important example. Agar is obtained from Geladium and Gracilaria, and these species basically are used to extract agar on large scale. Agar, like we get it commercially as ready-made powder form, okay, dry powder form. If we take this agar powder and mix it, okay, we dissolve it in like boiling water and then cool this mixture, we get a gel. So we can use this agar to make a gel medium to grow microorganisms. If you have to grow bacteria or any fungi, okay, in a petri dish on a gel medium, then you can use agar to solidify the medium, to give it a gel consistency. So agar is used to grow microbes. Also, it is used in preparation of ice creams and jellies, right? Another important application, chlorella. Okay, chlorella, this is unicellular green alga. ये कौन से ग्रुप से बिलोंग करता है? ग्रीन alga. ठीक है, chlorella is unicellular green alga which is very rich in proteins, and as it is very rich in proteins, it is used as a food supplement even by the space travelers, right? Very important example, chlorella, rich in proteins, used as food supplement. Okay, now when we look at all the algae, right, it still shows very huge diversity. To study it properly, right, for our convenience, what we have done is we have classified algae into three main classes based on the different pigments which are present, then the reserve food material, cell wall constitution, right? ऐसे अलग अलग criteria use करके हमने algae को mainly तीन अलग अलग क्लासेस में डिवाइड किया है, क्लोरोफाइसिए, फेयोफाइसिए एंड रोडोफाइसिए. क्लोरोफाइसिए आर कॉमनली कॉल्ड ग्रीन एल्गे, जिसका एग्जांपल हमने पढ़ा था जैसे कि क्लोरेला है, राइट. नेक्स्ट, फेयोफाइसिए, दीज आर कॉमनली कॉल्ड ब्राउन एल्गे, जैसे कि अभी हमने देखा अल्जिन इज ऑब्टेन्ड फ्रॉम ब्राउन एल्गे, राइट. यस, सो ब्राउन एल्गे मींस फेयोफाइसिए. Next, rhodophyceae. This is including all the red algae. So these species like Geladium and Gracilaria, these are red algae. So they belong to rhodophyceae, right? So far we have seen the general characteristics of algae, then how they are diverse in their structure, how they reproduce, and their importance. And last we have mentioned about the three classes. So in the next video we will study these three classes in detail. I hope this video was helpful for you. Thank you.